illustrate a point about something truly awful. And yet, the unfortunate reality is these are real homes that were once lived in by real families, now buried 2 to 3 meters beneath the soil. Because it just so happens that these homes were in the firing line of a destructive event that seems to hit this part of Japan once every 2 centuries.
Once every 2 centuries?
Japan lies on the Pacific Ring of Fire, where 4 colliding tectonic plates have led to 111 active volcanoes. In the last 3 centuries alone, these giants have taken the lives of more than 20,000 people. And the ultimate question is never if they'll awaken, but when. We're traveling across Japan, from snowy Hokkaido to subtropical Kyushu, to uncover the stories behind these ticking time bombs. We'll meet the people who live in their shadow, and those who dare to get closer. From towns that have taken drastic measures to protect themselves, to the most catastrophic eruption in Japan's recorded history, and the one everybody fears could be next. It's a story of fire and ash, and an ever-present threat that shaped the soul of a nation. As we go in search of Japan's deadliest volcanoes.
That's scary!
The Japan Meteorological Agency runs one of the most sophisticated volcanic warning systems on the planet. But unfortunately, even the best systems aren't entirely foolproof. On a clear September morning in 2014, hikers are climbing the trails of Mount Ontake, Japan's second tallest volcano, with seemingly no signs of danger. Then, without warning, at 11:53 a.m, it explodes for the first time in 35 years.
No!
A colossal plume of ash and rock tears into the sky. Within seconds, the tranquil mountain is transformed into a hellscape.
Oh my god!
Shocking footage shows panicked hikers fleeing as a thick cloud of toxic ash thunders down the mountain. They try their best to outrun it, but unfortunately the wind isn't in their favour, and they're quickly engulfed in the thick black clouds. Tragically for many on the mountain, this is the last thing they'll see.
Oh my god!
In the days that followed, the world's media turned their gaze to a mountain that had become an unrecognisable desert, while rescue teams desperately dug out survivors on the summit. 63 lives were lost, making it Japan's most lethal eruption in over a century.
I know him. It's the Mr. Affable Ironmouse guy.
Holy moly.
Japan is home to 10% of the world's active volcanoes, and the worrying truth is 50 are under constant surveillance, given their proximity to populations and their risk of a potential eruption. For some communities, the sign of smoke rising is merely a daily occurrence, but for others, it's an ominous sign that everything is about to change. Lake Toya, Hokkaido, a scenic resort town enjoyed by 3 million tourists a year. Travellers come here to escape, relax.
He's good at telling stories.
Yet concealed beyond the town lies an inaccessible landscape, whispering stories the guidebooks are keen to omit. Like along the shoreline of the lake and the hotels facing outwards, you can miss it. But turn around, look up, gaze up 700 metres to the towering stratovolcano that looms large overhead. And you can see something fairly unsettling has taken place here, right? The entire town of Lake Toya is effectively behind a barrier, a vast network of walls and dams separating it from Mount Usu, a terrifying volcano that has unleashed its wrath no less than 4 times in the last 150 years.
4 times?
On March 27th, 2000, the Muroran Meteorological Observatory detects a flurry of small earthquakes beneath Mount Usu. By the hour, they multiply, and by the end of the day, 109 earthquakes have been recorded. The following day, there are 590 earthquakes recorded, and 2 days later, over 1,600.
Oh my god!
On March 31st, Usu finally erupts. A pillar of white smoke and ash bursts through the sky as high as 3,200 metres, sending with it 290,000 metric tons of ash and volcanic debris, and reaching as far as Sapporo City, over 180 kilometres away. In the aftermath, 200 homes are destroyed. But to the locals, this doesn't come as a surprise. Mount Usu never stays quiet for long. The previous eruption in 1977 saw over 20,000 people being evacuated. And with 9 major eruptions over the last 400 years, every generation that's lived in this region has been reminded of its destructive power.
Oh, goodness.
Despite their image of explosive
That's so
momentary
scary,
destruction,
dude.
volcanoes don't often return to a state of calm after erupting. The Mount Usu
Volcanoes,
eruption in 2000
earthquakes
lasted
scare me,
for 18
tornadoes are
months.
scary.
Imagine 1.5 years of ash, steam, and
All
tremors.
natural disasters
never
are scary,
quite
but I
knowing
feel
what
like-
to expect next.
Like, you can't really
噴
predict
火もですね、
when
一回
stuff
の
like this
噴
is
火だ
gonna
けでは
happen.
な
It
くて
just
繰り返
happens,
し起
and
こり
then
ま
it's
す。
like,
一つの
oh.
噴火だったら、数十分ぐらいで収まったりするんですけども、それが何日かおきにまた起こる。でそれが何ヶ月にもわたって起こる。何年、2年、3年にもわたって噴火するということもあります。
Lake Toya is also home to a rather spectacular occurrence. In 1943, a perfectly ordinary wheat field decided it had bigger ambitions, like becoming a mountain.
Oh,
Over the next 2
God.
years, the ground steadily ballooned ever upwards, until the crops were replaced by a fully fledged volcano.
What the- it
Locals
just
named it Showa-shinzan,
popped up?
and to this day, it remains the only mountain in Japan you could have watched grow while eating your lunch. But as you'd expect, a volcano seemingly coming out of nowhere and growing in 2 years led to some bizarre kind of events unfolding. Number one, it was actually seen as a bad omen, and the Japanese government covered up the birth of Showa Shinzan back in the day. It wasn't until 1948, a volcano conference in Oslo, that it was formally announced. But the second bizarre thing that happened was, as there was no public knowledge of this volcano and no scientists on hand to kind of monitor it, a postmaster called Masao Mimatsu, who worked at a neighbouring town, kept track of it and actually kept diaries and kept a
what the
really
fuck?
kind of comprehensive report on it. Best of all, though, he actually bought the land that the volcano is on, so technically this is private property. So if you ever see a volcano growing in your back garden, buy the land and keep a reading of it. You might get a free trip to Oslo. Yeah. There is a tragic irony to life in Toyoko, a hot spring town whose very existence depends on the geothermal energy of Mount Usu, yet where residents
Hot
live with the
springs
constant
town.
awareness that they may have to evacuate at a moment's notice. And to the locals, such events haven't been simply consigned to history. Around the base of Mount Usu, a 2-kilometre stretch of land has been deliberately preserved, left exactly as it was in the aftermath of the 2000 eruption. Among the ruins stands the Toyoko Kindergarten, a silent, haunting reminder of just how suddenly normal life can be swept away. It's very eerily quiet up here, apart from the snow
looks-
gently falling around.
Oh my
And,
goodness.
you know, most Japanese towns that are affected by
That's
disasters
terrifying.
tend to get rid of the destruction that was left thereafter. The town of Toyo has kind of embraced it, and around the volcano you can see places like this that have been left up as a sort of ominous reminder to the locals and to travellers coming to this region. And there's lots of rocks strewn throughout the playground, and that was what led to the damage
It's
here on
the
this
second
building. They
flo- oh
flew
my
out the volcano and
God.
crashed into the side of the building, smashed windows, the roofs caved in. From a distance, the building looks mostly structurally sort of intact, but it's inside, it looks like a real horror show. And the playground is also kind of littered with burnt out, broken vehicles, like the old school bus,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
a pretty haunting sight to witness.
That's very haunting.
The towns surrounding Mount Usu have been shaped both physically and culturally by their uneasy relationship with the volcano, which raises the question, why would anyone choose to live in the shadow of something so volatile? To find the answer, we
I
travelled
would be too
1,300
scared to live
kilometres
around
south
something
to a
like that.
Japanese island with a volcano that doesn't just erupt occasionally, it breathes fire almost every single day.
What? Every day?
Sakurajima is Japan's most active volcano. Since 1955, it's erupted almost continuously, with some years seeing over 1,000 eruptions. For the 500,000 residents of Kagoshima
It's
City,
very
life
fertile.
means living at the mercy of the wind. On a bad day, it can rain a blizzard of volcanic ash straight into the heart of the metropolis. Nowhere else in Japan offers such a front row seat to both the beauty and the menace of living beside a volcano. Once a true island, Sakurajima was separated from the mainland of Kagoshima Prefecture until the Great Taisho eruption of 1914. One of the most powerful in Japan's history, that the landscape changed forever. Almost 10 billion tons of lava poured forth, with the molten flood
my
filling the
God.
400-metre strait separating it from the
400
mainland, permanently
meters?
welding the island to the Orsumi Peninsula. Sakurajima's fusion with the mainland may have been a geological marvel, but it came at a terrible cost, with 58 islanders losing their lives. And today, scars from the 1914 eruption remain etched into the communities through landmarks that survived the event. Honestly, one of the most beautiful yet haunting torii gates that I've ever seen. You know, red wooden torii gates get all the acclaim, but it's actually the stone ones that I think are more poignant because you get a sense of the sheer passage of time. In the case of this torii gate, it's actually 3 meters tall. You just wouldn't know it because 2 meters of it are buried beneath the soil in the volcanic ash that fell here in 1914. In just the space of one day, 2 meters of ash fell from the sky, smothering 687 homes. Luckily, the villagers knew it was coming, due to water in the wells actually boiling in the days ahead, fish dying in the sea.
That's crazy.
Sakurajima sort of announced what was about to happen in the days leading up to it. After the 1914 eruption, the town was thinking of excavating it, and then one of the elders of the community decided, why not leave it as a reminder to future generations? It's one of the few reminders of what happened back over 100 years ago, and become a tourist attraction in its own right. It's not something you see every day. And yet the constant clouds of smoke that eject from Sakurajima go mostly unnoticed by the people living here. When filming this documentary, the island was at an eruption warning level of 3, preventing people from going within close proximity of the volcano due to
3, no entry around evacuation of the
the likely event of an eruption.
Oh, halfway
with
to
level 5 being an
halfway
all-out evacuation,
Daddy.
something made possible by the 24-hour ferry that runs to and from Kagoshima
Bro, that's
City
scary.
across the sea every 20 minutes.
No.
Still, on a good week, the only sign of the volcano's wrath lies in the government-issued ash removal bags that quietly fill the island's streets. Just another part of everyday life for those who live here. But what's it really like to live and grow up in the shadow of Japan's most active volcano? I spoke with
These
Hikari-san,
people
who
are
helps
so
promote tourism
brave.
in the region, Fukushima-san, the director of the Sakurajima Museum, and Namoto-san, a local who's given kayak tours around the volcano for many years. What's this bag you've got here, Hikari?
It's called Kokuhai Bukuro, meaning overcoming volcanic ash.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this bag is distributed by the city, Kagoshima City. So the residents sweep the volcanic ash and put them inside a bag. Some areas they have to clean like almost every week.
Every week?
Goodness.
I mean, I'm bad enough cleaning my house as it is. I'll take that home to my partner, Charlotte.
This video has to end
火山
with too
の
much
そばになんで
volcano
わざわざ
playing.
人が住んでるんですかってはよく聞かれますけれども、火山の噴火が始まったのが、実は70年ぐらい前の話なんですね。普通に穏やかに住んでたところに火山活動が始まったというだけ。そこにわざわざ住みに行ったというよりは、住んでるところに火山灰が降り始めただけの話。それでも住み続けられるということは、大した被害じゃないっていう。
火山イコール怖いもんだ、破滅とか壊す、そういうことを思いがちですけれども、でもこの火山のおかげで温泉も入れるし、食べ物いっぱいあるんだ。爆発による噴出物、そういったもので実はいろんな命っていうのが生まれてるんだってことも知ってもらいたいです。
Would it be scary living here? I know you live across the bay, right? But would you ever consider living on the island?
Yeah. In my heart, I always say, good morning, Sakurajima.
じゃあこれから登りましょうか。登りたいね。Let's go. No, next time. Perhaps it's not so unreasonable to feel a sense of reverence towards these towering geological giants, particularly when viewed through the lens of Japanese history and belief.
Well, my
In
fucking
Shintoism, volcanoes are thought
my microphone just popped like off the stand and like hit me in the face.
to be the dwelling places of powerful deities, known as kami. For centuries, pilgrims would
the
ascend
fuck?
these sacred peaks to offer prayers and appease the gods,
It
hoping their
disconnected
devotion
itself.
might
What the
prevent the
hell?
next eruption. Even the origin of volcanoes in
Trying to
Japanese
watch
mythology
this.
is steeped in drama. According to ancient lore, the divine creators of Japan, Izanami and Izanagi, gave birth to the fire god Kagutsuchi, but the child emerged wreathed in flame and in doing so mortally wounded his mother. Stricken with grief, Izanagi drew his sword and cut the god of flames into 8 pieces, tossing them into far-flung locations across Japan and sprouting the 8 major volcanoes of the Japanese islands. And honestly, it's not hard to see why volcanoes were once feared as the wrath of the gods when you look at the deadliest eruption in Japanese history. For that, we head to our final destination.
Mount Unzen.
Now, if you were to come here without context, it might be safe to assume that this destruction was caused by an earthquake. That is, until you look up at the horizon towards Mount Unzen, a smouldering giant that looks innocent enough. But make no mistake, this volcano is an absolute monster, because it's not only the most deadly volcano in all of Japan, one of the deadliest volcanoes on the planet. Japan is in the midst of the Edo era, a time of peace, isolation, and rigid control. But in the quiet coastal town of Shimabara, something far less orderly is unfolding. For months, the ground has been restless. Small tremors ripple through the earth around Mount Unzen, unsettling villagers and local monks alike. On Mount Mayuyama, a lava dome has begun to bulge ominously, an unspoken warning that few can yet comprehend. Then, on May 21st, the mountain finally gives way. What follows is the deadliest volcanic disaster in Japanese history. A powerful magnitude 6.4 earthquake strikes the region, violently shaking Mount Mayuyama and dislodging the unstable lava dome perched on the summit. A colossal landslide tears down the mountain's western slope, obliterating everything in its path. Entire neighborhoods in Shimabara vanish in seconds.
Oh my God!
With 5,000 lives lost almost instantly. The avalanche continues, crashing into Ariake Bay and displacing an enormous volume of water, unleashing a mega tsunami. As the landslide slices Mount Mayuyama down from 760 meters to just 400, the waves in the bay rise an astonishing 57 meters, slamming into Kumamoto across the sea. By the time the tsunami loses its power, it's reached as far as 24 kilometers inland and taken the lives of over 10,000 people. It's a cataclysmic event that Kyushu never saw coming, and a reminder that one of the most dangerous things about volcanoes is the inability to predict just what part of the eruption will become the deadliest. There's no greater example of this than the catastrophe that struck 200 years later. In 1991, after months of volcanic activity, Mount Unzen made its presence known once again, with tragic consequences. In the days leading up to the eruption, anticipation had been building, with news crews and photographers gathered at the base of Mount Unzen, staking out fixed positions in the hope of capturing the moment the volcano roared to life. Volcanologists expected a dramatic eruption. Instead, the mountain began to swell. A lava dome started forming at the summit, thick, viscous magma rising slowly, reshaping the landscape like a balloon filling with molten rock. But these domes were inherently unstable, fragile, pressurized, and prone to sudden collapse. Then, on June 3rd, 1991, at 4 p.m., the worst-case scenario unraveled. The dome gave way, triggering a violent pyroclastic flow. Caught on film with this terrifying footage, a lethal surge of superheated gas, ash and volcanic rock, up to 1,000 degrees Celsius in temperature, tore down the mountainside at 200 kilometers per hour. Many of the media and news teams that were assembled were unable to escape, including amongst them world-famous French volcanologists Katia and Maurice Kraft, who had travelled to Japan to document the eruption. Tragically, 43 people were killed, many of them members of the media, waiting to witness history, and sadly instead becoming a part of it.
Wow. Having spent many of my years up in Tohoku, along the coastline where they've basically terraformed it, reshaped it after the tsunami, I'm used to seeing massive infrastructure projects, but the scale of this is breathtaking. These dams, right, to prevent mudflow coming down the mountainside. It's almost like stepping stones for a giant, a god. Absolutely incomprehensible. Even now, you know, about 30 years after the last eruption, it's sobering to think that the defences that are being built now could be protecting people, you know, 200 years into the future here in this part of Japan. This is where the iconic shot of the pyroclastic flow was taken, that barreled down the mountain, destroying farmland and taking the lives of dozens of people, including Katia and Maurice Kraft. And you can see amidst the trees and the foliage that's actually kind of sprung it back into life, these huge, massive boulders of rock, chunks of the volcano that fell down, came down with the eruption, strewn throughout the forests and the fields beneath Mount Unzen. Even today, it's ominously kind of smouldering at the top. A little bit scary looking up at that.
It's an unsettling thought that it might erupt once again in the not too distant future. And yet, for many, the spectre of the volcano hasn't been a deterrent for those wanting to live and work here.
Brave
While
people,
construction
brave.
crews
I
raise
would not be
concrete
that
walls to
brave.
keep people out, the locals quietly edge ever closer. And when I say locals, I don't just mean the humans.
Animals too.
Emmanuel Carlones lived in Shimabara for several years, promoting Unzen's Hells Valley hot spring town. He also shows me the real reason the local cats have fallen in love with the place.
That's oh, son of a bitch. That's really hot.
Right? Right. You can really feel, you know, the power of the volcano just by touching the ground. It's very hot.
You could cook a sirloin steak on that.
Yeah,
And we should.
honestly.
We
Yeah,
should.
Not probably very clean, but
No. But that explains why there's so many cats around here, right?
yes, they love it.
Aw,
I mean,
that's
this
so
hell over
cute.
here,
It's nice and warm.
The volcanic acids are not toxic, so it's actually, you know, there's living things going around over here, and it's not too hot. It's just the right temperature.
Very cute. No location in Japan would be complete without dozens of cats having a fight. Very cute.
Cats benefit from the heat, and so do the hotels. Inns built around the hellish landscape get to save roughly 40% on their gas bills by sending their pipes through the scalding hot natural
Oh,
steam.
wow.
But is it really worth the trade-off? Operating so close to something so destructive, given what could happen if and when it all goes wrong?
In a sense, the volcano has been active for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And people, you know, sometimes it erupts, but people keep living here. They want to live here. They also want to protect this environment.
That's something that struck me actually, looking at the footage of Mount Unzen in like 1991, 1992, the destruction.
Right.
You would think people wouldn't want to live there, and yet there is a lot of people living there. The city, the town sort of recovered.
At a certain point, you start thinking about it as a living thing, also almost as a person or as a god itself. And you know, as an entity itself, it's pretty fair. You know, it erupts every 200 years or so. So when you know that it's about 200 years, you're like,
Time to
maybe
go.
I can get a long vacation, or maybe I can start to look into different options. But then after that, you know that it's going to be, you know, pretty pacific for the rest of the years.
Let's hope so anyway. Let's hope it is another 200 years, because
Yes.
Mount Unzen certainly doesn't seem to play by the rules.
Exactly.
At the base of Unzen on Nagasaki's west coast lies the hottest onsen town in all of Japan, with the spring water reaching an astonishing 105 degrees Celsius from the source. The town happens to be
105
called
degrees?
Obama, the second town in Japan with the
Obama
name of the former
onsen?
president and with no affiliation with the man himself. Though of course the locals have gleefully stuck his face on a towel. I meet with Nahoko Kato, who
They
works in
love
Obama,
Obama.
but is originally from Chiba, and she wouldn't choose to be anywhere else.
怖い。一番暖かいビジでしょ、オバマ町。
今日ぬるい。
あ、そうなの？
すごく
あ、
ぬるい。
イエーイ。
ちょうどいい。
おー、あ、イエーイ。ちょうどいい。
全然大丈夫。温泉と非常にやっぱり密接につながっているミネラルがすごく豊富に普賢岳からこう川を伝って流れてくるので、ここはそういった意味では非常に豊かなお魚が育つ場所。火山から受ける恩恵の方が日常多い、怖いというよりもありがたい。特に雲仙の人たちなんかはカーテンを開けてお山の方を向くとそちらに向かって「おはようございます」っていう習慣が
神様みたい。
そうです。
Being
もう
broiled.
何かあれば
I like hot water though. I would have a great time. I would dip my toes in
That's
there.
beautiful
I
thing.
love hot water.
And you have a We Love Obama Town. President Obama is the mascot of Obama Town.
I dip my toes in
お
there.
これが聞くことありますか？
はないです。
あー、
残
Come on,
念
Obama. Get
Yes.
down there. Get down there now. Enjoy the
Yes,
foot.
we can.
My
Yes,
little
we can.
footsie.
Get in the footbath. Obama, if you're watching. She definitely is.
Despite the destruction Unzen unleashed both centuries ago and in living memory, chances are you've never heard of it. But what about the volcano everybody knows? The one everybody fears erupting, perhaps more than any other? With over 300,000 climbers every year, it's easy to forget that Japan's most iconic mountain is in fact a ticking time bomb. When Mount Fuji last erupted, from 1707 to 1708, it blanketed the region in 800 million cubic meters of ash. Tokyo, over 100 kilometers away, was plunged into darkness. If the same eruption were to happen today, with almost 40 million people living around the mountain, it wouldn't be so much a natural disaster as a full-blown national emergency.
Oh my god.
experts predict it could bury the capital in up to 30 centimeters of ash, enough to paralyze transport, knock out power grids, and grind the world's most populated city to a halt, with an estimated $20 billion of damage. Of the 2 times I've climbed Mount Fuji, I'll never forget standing on the summit, peering into the vast crater, a crater large enough to swallow a whole town, and wondering what it might still be holding back. The seismic data tells a rather worrying story. When I spoke to Professor Kenji Satake at the Earthquake Research Institute, he pointed to the Nankai Trough, a fault line that many believe is overdue.
Oh,
The eruption
no.
of Mount Fuji may be related to the earthquake in Nankai Trough. In 1707, earthquake happened, then several months later, Mount Fuji erupted. That's where both related to the subduction of the Philippine plate. Along the Nankai Trough, the government says the chance of the next earthquake in the next 30 years is 70 to 80%.
An earthquake here could set off a chain reaction that triggers Mount Fuji, with some experts saying there's a 5 to 10% chance of an eruption within the next 30 years. For now, Japan's most beloved mountain sleeps, but one day it will wake, and when it does, the
Darling,
whole
hold
world
my hand.
will be watching.
Oh my god.
My God, this is absolutely stunning. This is Hibaruyama Flower Park at the base of Mount Unzen. Throughout this documentary, it's been fascinating hearing about the locals' complicated relationship. The volcanoes wreak unimaginable damage on this country, and yet they also give back. The nutrients in the soil, the hot springs beneath our feet, there are clear benefits to having volcanoes in your country. And, you know, while tsunamis and earthquakes might come and go, volcanoes are an ever-present symbol of Japan's relationship with nature and those kind of seismic threats they face every single day.
Scary.
And for me, having travelled to Hokkaido, Kagoshima, to Unzen, hearing people's stories and experiences and their relationship with these volcanoes, I've come to appreciate that Japanese culture simply wouldn't be the same without them. And for that, we have to be grateful. And even the absolute monster that is Mount Unzen looks particularly stunning today as we stand here in the very flower garden that it helped create.
Beautiful. Wow. Thanks, Chris. What a nice video. Everybody go. Go click on the link. Drop it a like. Oh man, that's scary. Volcanoes are scary. Scary volcanoes.